I'd like to share today, on the idea of smuggling truth by Meir Michael Abehsera. I wrote these notes when I was in my friend's house while he was working on the computer. I was writing notes. So there's madness of the holy, which is when we step out of the limits of the profane. We dance one foot in the dark, one in the light. So what is just the kedusha, nonsense of holiness, of separation? We use the least words to convey that which penetrates the main, solid main, causing it to flutter like a flame. And we smuggle the fallen sparks of exile beneath the soles of our feet, latent in all of us. Honorable function in commerce of thoughts, where it meets us anywhere, we meet it anywhere, anytime. There's an eternal relevance of the sacred. And our faults are bigger than us. They're small like a mite. Like, in other words, they're small. We're like a mite compared to the flaws. So the freight keeps us from the attention who want to do us harm. And that's camouflage. It fools the custom guards. So a child makes itself more childlike to make room for wonder. It waits for lessons at the end. It won't allow cleverness to interfere with the fable that she or he lets himself to get drawn into until the end, knowing the code of illusion, where deed is testing the validity of thought. We pursue and confront every thought and force it to prove itself. Otherwise, thought is just the clamor of the mind, also known as noise. Chassidus, as makes wise and flattens vanity, breaks heavy masks through laughter. A well versus a spring. So a well affords its contents time to acquire character and faithfully preserves what it is entrusted to care for, versus a spring which can be usurped. It travels far to anyone. There's a special function to harness themselves to visions and dreams, right? Thoughts. Rendering them possible. These thoughts then can become possible. Each phase coincides perfectly with the needs of the time, where one phase is pregnant with the next, and the still waters turn suddenly into springs to deliver the new message. Heaven withholds. I forgot a H. Heaven withholds vital details until they're revealed. The work is done while we're blind and our efforts are appreciated. So we're like poets who achieve awareness of our knowledge in the midst of speaking, and the first ones to be surprised by what we express. And we become impossibly vain if we only hide and humble by speaking out during the tottering between decline and redemption. So vessels break because they're selfish. There's rubble and worshippers of rubble, an emergence of the man of faith who it edits who comes up with the sum of the parts. Because intellect can turn to idol worship if it doesn't serve love. We diminish our presence and it thins the ear until divine reality outshines false beauty of the idol. The cold heart and the cold mind disfigure so much to create this idol. And there's a distant, unharmonious vessels from neighbors. There's two attitudes after the primordial fall. We judge the voyage as impossible and learn to cope and satisfy ourselves in the pits, or use every means necessary to return to the source. Integrating, sifting, testing, harmonizing. The just, right, the tzaddik, doesn't ever gaze on evils, no ill thoughts about anyone, doesn't selfishly grab even the most legitimate of pleasures. Tongue never ventures for a sensational taste. Every deed performed absorbs sacred like a sponge. It's a seraphic appearance, and it commands more attention with actions than with mouth, than with direct commands. The body doesn't disprove excellence of speech, and the flesh doesn't refute the thoughts, allegations that it already saw in the light, like any kind of fakery. So breaking the two halves of the heart and uniting it is the only way to include the multitude. The despair cancels the reasoning powers of memory and empties the mind of past certitudes. And an empty mind gets lots of mad winds, but it can cause also a loss of identity. So becoming a jack of all trades, meeting each new moment with exactly what's needed and not pass the buck and give it to those in need of rest and rejuvenation who came our way. One's worst enemy, though, is fear, where there's a lack of faith in the self, and it gives a loss of speed, where everyone who is imprisoned by the false role of rubble over others. And when I say rubble, it's because the ruling over somebody, remember, was the vessels break because they're selfish. So we call it ruling over others, but actually it's rubble because it's a false role. It's imprisoned by not a real metal gate, by pieces of stones, right? Or whatever. I'm giving an analogy, okay? A guest broadens our knowledge and our understanding of ourself and the other because it eases us of our pressing, unfounded need for privacy. And the devil is the voyeur, the invalid, the desperate for attention, takes pleasure in nothing, insatiable urge to provoke, lurks behind the just, wins forceful, old-fashioned, predictable ways. It's a man neutralizing his wife's devil. Let me say that in other words. A man neutralizing his wife's devil is to not give her too many compliments and subtle small criticism. To protect her, he wards off envy and elevates her higher than whatever role or action she's doing. Focuses him on her true worth and shows appreciation, trusting she'll decipher the code and praise past the point can weaken the reflexes against the damaging insults of the world. So the antidote is to insult with love, this time to nullify it. So the immune system, like, even I'll hurt you a little, just be a little tough. Like, even I who love you will by mistake say things that cause you to feel bad. But there's dark forces. They have us believe our redemption is far off and that it's impossibly a high mountain to climb when it's just a hill. I had that experience yesterday. I biked up a hill and it was really hard and it felt like a mountain, and I've done it before and it wasn't that hard. It was a hill, a big hill. Sanity is found in the possible, a room norm, which is in the future will protect him from false prophets, even against his own dreams, because the infinite comes to bloom. So these finite dreams will not fit in the future of moreness. We are custodians of illusion. I heard a fly, I hope it didn't come in. What's it doing out in 32-degree weather? Custodian, or 40 degrees today, whatever. Custodians of illusion and reality, thought and deed. Deed is what's happening actually, and illusion is like what we're thinking of in front of the moment. Life of pleasure versus total abstinence. This is like where we find ourselves in between. The improbable coexistence of spoken word and flesh, where the unbearable feeling at confronting the sense that we could die, but that we're not what can die, and constantly, right? So freedom of choice is to choose life over death. We don't get stuck in the bewitching fascination of the beyond, right? Which is after death. So space is easily conquered, but has something to show for itself. The blue expanse of sky deflects the anguish. And finally, time suffers the greatest loss because it has no vessel to be seen. And so I will stop there. I'm getting close to finishing this portion of this notebook. It's the 6th notebook I have, and I had done half of the second half first. And I'm moving toward, there's just another day or two, perhaps, or maybe a few more days if I intersperse it with others. And then I think I'm starting again. And part of me thinks I should start a new YouTube channel from the beginning. And I may do that. And if you're watching this, before I end this last, when I finish this, I'll let you know where you can find me somewhere else. Or I may have to delete all the videos and start fresh. We'll see what happens together, because I'm not sure yet. I hope God will guide me the right way. In other words, I hope I'll listen when God is guiding me the right way, because God will guide me the right way. I have to listen. All right, thank you. Bye.